Welcome into the K-State Online. I'm Mason Voth. That is Drew Galloway. Yes, K-State lost over the weekend. We talked about that Saturday after the game, but fortunately, the recruiting gods have put us in a spot where we don't have to talk about that again on a Monday because we have a new commitment for you. For the first time since the 4th of July, we have a football commitment for K-State. It comes in, well, if you've been following along at KSO, a very likely spot. But if you don't keep up with recruiting day in, day out, you're going to be like, wait, this guy's from where? Yes, K-State has picked a defensive lineman from Sweden. Adrien Becca is coming to play for the Cats. He was in town for the Texas Tech game over the weekend, made the visit, had some notable offers, as you see down below. I'm sure some people then ultimately go, well, why is he picking K-State over those? So, Drew, why is he coming to play at K-State as opposed to Georgia?
Well, one of the reasons is K-State is a team that really worked hard with Adrien Becca and PIP Recruits, which is the organization that he was a part of over the summer, that they go literally everywhere that they can to go compete. And it's Europeans from just about everywhere. This was the same camp that, there was kids from all over the world getting offered, and not just the U.S. Kind of happenstance that they ended up at K-State. They were about to go to a camp at Nebraska and saw that K-State had a camp, said, why not? And I think that they really, really enjoyed it. The PIP Recruits team, as well as Adrien Becca obviously really enjoyed their time. And then from there, K-State was blown away by Adrien Becca. Like this was a camp performance that I was not at this camp, but I got texts about who is this and why was this like one of the best camp performances that we've seen in Manhattan shortly after he camped. So then you go from that to then it's like, okay, this guy's from Sweden. We got to figure out logistically, how are we going to do this? And K-State is stuck with Becca, stuck with PIP Recruits, stuck with RIG Academy about like, when can we make this happen and have him come over and take his official visit? And really from the beginning of the football season, it was kind of that November 1st was the target date for him. And I think just the constant communication and constant trying to make it work, because it's very easy when you see Sweden to just kind of give up and be like, okay, like he came to a camp. How in the world are you going to be able to pull this off? But the constant communication, constant working with logistics, and constantly just figuring out how they could make it happen, it is why K-State ends up winning out. Because if you really look at this, yes, he had the Georgia offer. Yes, he had the Florida offer. But it was very hot and cold with those teams. I pointed out in the commitment story with Becca that he actually got an offer from Georgia in 2024 when he came over and went to a camp. And then again in 2025, this past summer, when he went to a camp. So it was very hot and cold with the other teams. But K-State was like, we want you and we really need you. And there's a path for him to play right away. So it was a long time coming. This is something that I went into the weekend very strongly feeling that K-State was going to be able to land Becca. Got a little bit timid on it. I think kind of like the late hours on Saturday, because there was actually a little bit of a worry that Georgia was starting to turn up the heat even more again, and that he might visit Georgia. But now it's all shut down, and he is committed to K-State and is planning on arriving in January, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, and so that right there, you talk about it was hot and cold for Georgia, but it wasn't cold when this thing ended, obviously, and K-State was able to get it done. And this is, Am I wrong to say like this is more of an old-fashioned recruiting type thing because it's an international guy, so it's going to play out a little bit differently? So it's just, hey, these are the people I trust. These are the guys that I like what they have going on, and that's where I'm going.
Yeah, this was a very old-fashioned way of winning a recruit that K-State did, and especially like typically when a recruitment plays out in you get a commitment in like November, it's much more of like a fast pace. Like if K-State were to land Camille Pruitt, who also visited over the weekend for an official visit, that's typically what a November recruitment looks like, where like you offer in October, you really push for an OV for like one of the times in November, boom, you close it out, wrap it up, it's all done. This was something that had been coming for the last handful of months, and it was just kind of that anticipation of like waiting for it to happen, and then it finally ends up happening for K-State.
So you see 6'3", 290 is what he's listed at. What in addition to the size gives you the notion, and that he's coming in January, that hey, this could be an immediate playing time situation for a guy that is going to be young and plays football in Sweden.
Yeah, he is very raw, but the potential is there to play right away because of the size, the speed. It is a very rare combination at K-State to have somebody with his size coming in that plays with his speed and his athleticism. He's extremely quick off the ball. You kind of look at defensive tackle, and we've kind of hinted at this a few times that I'm not sure if K-State really had the horses to be able to go to a 4-down front on the interior this season. Then you kind of look at it next year and you're thinking to yourself, well, Uso will be gone. Damian Alalio will be gone. Malcolm Crowder, it's a good thing that the light has really turned on. He's been really, really good, because after that, it gets very scary on the interior. And that kind of brings Becca Bailele to the table as like, he's enrolling in January. He's somebody that blew K-State away at a camp. There's a path to where he plays right away. And they might need him to, because behind those three, and really Malcolm Crowder is the only one returning. Patrick Tackey's only played in 1 game. Holden Bass only played in 2 games. I don't know if Asher Tomaszewski has played in any games. So you kind of look at that as like, you kind of need somebody. You're going to get an older player or two probably by the time that spring football rolls around. But there's no reason that somebody like Kingston Hall or Becca Bailele could come in and play next season for at least a handful of snaps a game. And then you also have the opportunity with Becca Bailele, because I think that he is probably a little bit more versatile than Kingston Hall. Kingston Hall, I think, is just more of a 3-tech. But Becca Bailele could be somebody that is a true D tackle at some point, or like he could also play that 3-tech and play that spot. So the versatility also plays a big factor here. But I am somebody that thinks that the recruiting service is a little too low on Becca Bailele, but I do understand what the evaluation process is for him. Because if you look, and I sent this in the KSO chat, that his film is a little bit funny because he is just so much faster and so much more athletic and so much stronger than the other kids that he's going against, that it is tough. But like Rivals has him as like that lowest 3-star range. 247 has him in that mid 3-star range, and then ESPN has him almost to that 4-star range. So it is very wild how his evaluation has played out, and is something that like it is kind of a risk when you take somebody like this. But the thing with that is it doesn't mean that he's not going to be a player. I mean, Sweden has produced a lot more college players than I think that you'd expect. Texas A&M, one of the best teams in the country this year, their starting tight end is from Stockholm. Like it is very possible that he comes in and is just ready to go right away. Like I don't want people to think that this is just like taking a European player and you're like, oh, this is going to be a mess. But it is a very interesting way to go about this. And I think that, like, especially a defensive tackle, this is something that you might need to do in this new day and age in the Big 12 and the new day and age in college athletics, where like a lot of the best defensive tackles are going where the money is. So why not kind of go like the money ball route area of like taking somebody like Adrien Becca, who you'd seen camped. He is from Europe. Why not give it a shot? Because he has the size and the speed and the athleticism that he can come in and play day one.
Yeah, it's, turn over every stone that you can in this era of college athletics to try to find. I mean, it's not necessarily things that might give you a little bit of a cut in terms of the resources that you have to devote to something. Now, obviously, K-State has to put in the resources and effort to make it happen to add a football player from Sweden, but also there are other ways where this will benefit them that others won't. And it's a fascinating route, but it goes to show that they're not just focusing on a couple of very specific things, and it also took a little bit of good fortune where his touring camp group seemed to just fall in their lap in Manhattan, and they took it, ran with it, and now K-State's got a guy that looks like he could be better. And you mentioned the recruiting services being all over the place. I'd expect that for a international high school football player from Sweden. So, but the size is there, and a lot of the other things that you've mentioned that people seem to like. So it's a nice pickup when you get into November for K-State, as they now are moving themselves up in terms of where they sit with their class. They're 51st in the country, currently sitting at 17 commits. Where do you expect that number to be as we get closer to signing day?
Commits or class rank?
Both.
Class rank by signing day. I could see this class with some reevaluations, because if you've also been on KSO, you know that we're really beating the drum of Oliver Miller recently, it feels like. And he's somebody that I think could go up in the rankings. I think there's a few others. And then you're just going to get more commits by signing day. There's a chance that this class ends up probably in that 42 to 46 range. And then they're at 17 commits. I think by signing day, they'll probably be at 21 or so. We'll see how it plays out there. I would say 21 to 23, 21 on the low end, obviously. But there's enough targets out there, and I think that there's going to be enough that surface, because I think that the Colorado weekend could also be a big visit weekend as well, that you could get up to 23. Another thing that's like kind of like just popped into my mind thinking about this is that also, like, you take Becca in this situation, there is an avenue to where if this really works for K-State, and obviously the PPI recruits team really enjoys K-State because they were among others that were with Becca in Manhattan, that this could be an avenue that K-State goes down more than just a blip. Like, this could be something that happens a little bit more common going forward.
All right. Well, K-State football and basketball now, both dipping their toes into the international waters.
Isn't that what John Rothstein says about Arizona? Like, grab your passport.
I would like to burn my passport after my only trip out of the country ever resulted in a disaster in Ireland. So
there went my idea of a KSO travel. Do we just go to Sweden?
More like get your visas. I would get for players, grab your visas, come on over, enjoy what Manhattan, Kansas has to offer, because it's a whole lot better to play football games in Manhattan than it is in Europe. So,
I mean, I would imagine
K-State never tries that again.
Well, I mean, what's also interesting, like, with this is that, like, there's a world where K-State gets more European games and they keep getting more European players.
Don't say that. I joked about that when you brought this one up, but don't make that a reality. Don't start toying with games, because then you get situations where you'd rather where Jeff Sims is winning in Jack Trice Stadium over the weekend, and K-State still somehow lost to that team when they were mostly at full strength. So
Ireland gets
great.
to everybody. Just takes a little bit longer for others.
All right. Well, recruiting's still going well for K-State, if you can believe it or not, folks, despite a 4-5 season. So if you want more on that, I would implore you to go check out KSO over at On3 and make some sense of why K-State's able to hang on to recruits while the sky seems to be falling on the field, and where there might be hope that things get turned around and head in a different direction next year. That will do it for us today. So for Drew Galloway, I'm Mason Voth. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Basketball tips off the season tomorrow at home against UNC Greensboro. We will be live after the game discussing the season opener.